Okay, so if you want to desurface a card or whiteborder a card for any reason, an example would be to take something like this and turn it into something like this, make it whiteborder. Sometimes people just like to match cards to some of the older lands, and they will whiteborder. I have seen a whiteborder Belcher deck, which included the Lion's Eye Diamonds, Goblin Tribe Belcher, Burning Witch, every single card in it was whiteborder. Obviously, Taiga didn't need to be whitebordered, it was from Revised. But if you want to do something like this and turn into something like this, for me personally, I don't whiteborder very often. The reasons why you would want to desurface or whiteborder a card, sometimes lighter colors like yellow, for example, or similar colors, don't go over as well over a darker surface. So if you have a border of something like this and you wanted to essentially make it white or make it like a light green or a yellow, you might barely, after applying a few layers of paint, still see the black border through it. This is only something that really happens with light colors over darker colors. So a way to solve that issue is to start out by white bordering it, and then you don't have to worry about the border shining through if you're doing a lot of lighter colors. And darker colors isn't so much of an issue. And if you want to sit there and apply layer after layer after layer of paint, you can essentially make that go away. But if you want to save a little bit of time for whatever reason, or if you just want to white border a card, that is what we're doing here. For me personally, really the only time that I white border a card is when I am going for this result, and it is a very unique type of border on an altar. And what I do is I desurface the border, I white border it, and when I'm done, I add some lines, and then you have a unique altar. It's neat to have something unique, something that you have never seen anyone else do. And if you can come up with anything, if you can create anything that stands out that you've never seen done before, you're going to have a unique edge out there, and people that want to go for something different that they've never seen before, you're going to get an audience for that. With that, we'll go to the altering or desurfacing in this case itself. And as you can see, we've already started on the card. We're using a Xacto knife, and what we're doing is we're very, very lightly scratching at the card. We're not pressing down very hard. Essentially, you want to go as light as possible. As with anything, if you've never done a process before and you're uncomfortable, just practice on a basic land. I'm using a treasure cruise because they're pretty much banned everywhere, and I have 10 of them. I have no other use for them, so I might as well sacrifice a few, and we'll do some tricks with them. One of them is this, but we're white bordering it, and it's a little bit off camera there at the current time, but we're scratching the paint off. We're essentially flaking or scratching the paint off and desurfacing it. And in doing this, there's a number of ways that you can white border a card. I've heard people use an eraser. I've heard people use paint thinner. I've tried the paint thinning method once, and I don't know exactly what I did wrong. Maybe I was trying to go too fast, but when I did it, it took a long time, and I didn't like the end result. I got a better end result with what you're seeing being done here. And again, it isn't 100%. Nothing's 100%. But if you want to white border it, when you're done, what you'll do is you'll use some white paint to get the little spots that you can't really seem to get out. Part of the reason why that happens is because as you're scratching it, you want to blow off and remove the residue coming off every so often, because if you don't, as you're scratching the card, you can get part of the residue to scratch back in, and then it literally blends in and kind of almost fuses with the rough surface, and then you get these little spots that you can see where it's obvious that there used to be something else there. But for the most part, it's 98-99% white removed, and it makes it easier if you want to do lighter colors or for darker colors, because the darker border is gone. And if again, if you just want to do a white border, but you want to flake over it, and you want to go gently, and you want to wipe the residue that will come off. You can blow it, you can use your hand to wipe it, and do that every so often. Another thing to note as going through here is you're not really messing with the picture so much. If you want to go further, if it's not just the border, if you want to remove anything, you can do this with anything, but the simple goal here is to just white border it. And when you're going along, scratching along the lines, you want to try to get as close to the line as possible. You don't want to underdo getting close to the line, so if you have to go over it a little bit, that's okay, because when you apply paint later, or when you have the end result, you can always fix anything that you do. But if you don't do the work when going in and trying to scratch off all of it, you might have to go back afterwards, and that can take off more time. So don't be afraid to overextend versus underextending. At least that's how I take the approach on this. I get as close to the line as possible. There's some spots where it's not 100%, and when I go and I paint to make the white border completely white, if the line is too messed up, I'll just paint over the line completely. If the line is right on the edge where I want it when I'm done painting it, the paint will be over a little bit. I use a toothpick to remove the paint, and then it comes out just nice. But the white bordering or desurfacing process, again, it's just you're literally just sitting there, lightly scratching at the card, and you're literally just rubbing and scratching, and it's very light. You're not applying a lot of pressure. There might be some points where you apply a little bit more than others, and as you can see there, I went in a little bit more than I wanted to, but you can always touch it up with the paint afterwards, and if you're just going for a white border look, as long as the lines are straight when you're done, it's going to look nice, and it's going to look presentable, and you're probably going to be happy with it. As far as scratching it off, you can actually see here kind of how it's ridging, which is not completely avoidable. It is going to be a bit of a rough surface. When you're done, you actually want to press kind of hard with your thumb, and you want to go over and kind of smooth out the roughness. It's almost like a cloth or a material when it's done, because it's not glossy and smooth like the card is. It's rough, and you can tell it's been scratched. But if you use your thumb and press hard, you can get all the little residues off. You'll get a couple of pieces. You'll get a couple of spots that will come up, and it's just part of this process. But when it's done, if you want a white border, you have a white border option, and if you want to go for something unique, you can do something like that. And if you just want to get rid of the darker border because you're doing lighter colors over darker colors and you don't want that border to shine through, once you get to this point, then you start the alternate process, and you just go from there. So as far as that goes, I hope that helps. If you like what you saw, we'll be doing some more stuff, but I figured one of the tips and tricks that we can get out of the way first would be to white border a card, and that's the end result. And from there, you would just do some touch-ups, add some paint, and then you'd have a white border card. And when you're done, you're done, and that's it. There's nothing more to add to that. So thank you for watching, and hopefully that helps. If you already have a process for whiteboarding and you want to share, that's awesome. For me personally, I like the Xacto Knife. It took about 7-8 minutes to do or so, and with the paint, obviously it's going to take a little bit more time, but the actual desurfacing process taking a few minutes there, and that's it. So hopefully we'll see you at the next one.